Okay. Well, hello, everybody. Thank you so much for carving out time. Whether you're here with us tonight or watching the replay, I am here to help you find more joy and ease as a parent. So let's go ahead and get started. And I'm sure you've probably been at some point been told this, enjoy your kids. It goes by fast. I know I have definitely been told that. And, the truth is there's a lot of truth to that. But many parents really have this desire to enjoy parenting and to parent more joyfully on the day to day. But the reality is that there's a lot of challenges, right? There's a lot of things that kind of pull away from what matters, conflicting priorities, and the balancing of the to-do list that never ends. And it really can sometimes just get in the way of that deep connection and really just having fun together. Some parents might want to break generational patterns or just frustration, reactivity that they might be feeling. And so today, my goal is to give you some very actionable different perspectives on thinking about how you're engaging with yourself and with your children. And my goal is to really help you reconnect with your inner child again so that you can really see the power of play and parenting. So let me move on to the next screen. I'm having a little bit of issue with here, let me move this. Okay, there we go. That's better. Okay. So I love this quote by Maria Montessori. She says, play is the work of a child. And we're going to talk a little more about that as we move on. But first, I just kind of want to go over what I have in store for us today. I'll start off with a little introduction so you can get to know me a little more. And then we'll discuss why play is so important. And then we'll take a little quiz. I promise you're not getting a grade. And then I want to give you some actionable strategies that you can implement in your home right away. So, a little bit about me. I am married to a wonderful husband. We will be sharing our 24th anniversary next month. And we have three boys. I'm a boy mom. We just sent my oldest off to college this year. So I have a 19, 16, and 11-year-old. And they truly have inspired me to grow and to heal and to improve in so many areas of my life. And I truly feel that I truly believe that children really hold up unintentionally this mirror of what we need to work on in ourselves. And, trust me, we have our days. My kids, don't always have a smiling face every single day. We have sibling disagreements. I definitely have my moments as well. Um, but those are all also part of our day, including the connection and the joy and the happy times we have together. Now, early in my parenting, I'll be completely honest with you, I didn't think this was possible. I was solo parenting and I was stressed. I was teaching full time, and I just wanted everything around me to change so that I could do better and so that I could be a better mom. And what I realized is that I had to be the one. I had to be the one to change to become a better mom. So if that resonates with you, if you feel like you have a lot of things working against you, or it just seems way too hard, I just want to share through my experience that you get to have a huge impact when you start to take ownership and responsibility and start to do things differently. It really there's a shift that kind of it moves towards an even bigger and long-lasting impact. So I came to this work after teaching Montessori for over 2 decades. It was a bit of a wake-up call. It was after COVID. I thought this was just a business decision for me to start my parent coaching certification. And, because I had so much experience working with children from ages 2 to 12. But I really didn't know what was missing and what would make a difference. So that's why I'm here to share with you today some of those things. And as a longtime Montessori teacher turned parent coach, I now help parents globally break cycles of yelling, frustration, and guilt to be more calm and create unshakable bonds with their children no matter what. So last year around this time, there was an advisory that came out by the Surgeon General saying that parental stress is having a huge impact on our nation. They were calling it for a fundamental shift on how, they're prioritizing mental health of parents. So 33% of parents reported high levels of stress. And 48% reported on most days the stress was completely overwhelming. So parents really need better support. And when I read this article, two thoughts came to mind. The first one was, it's about time the world or the government is recognizing this, this is important. And number two, like, let's do this. Let's put some things in place to really help parents. Because we know that parenting is the most difficult job and the most important job that you'll ever have. And parenting in this modern time, we're presented with a lot of challenges. Not to say that previous generations didn't have their challenges, but when you think about the stress of why it's so hard, and then there's, not so much of these villages of support system to guide you, it definitely adds to it. And I think it's taken the world a long time to realize that really taking care of children starts with taking care of the adults that are in their lives. So bottom line, parenting is hard. We have moments, we all have periods of shame and moments of motivation. I wish it was the other way around. I wish we had, more periods of moments and just, of motivation and just moments of shame, but that's not how humans work, which is why coaching is so important because I'm able to give parents a safe space so they can learn and grow, and then their children end up doing that alongside them. So some of the stressors mentioned in the article were financial, time demands, children's health and safety, parent loneliness, screen time, cultural pressures. And so although play can't solve every single stressor here, I truly believe that play has such a healing power for both the child and the adult. So let's see how this all plays out. Because you can see here that, many families are kind of living in this swirl of unmet needs. And so if we look at this like from the child to the adult, the child's not getting their needs met, and neither is the adult. And so whether it's a need for connection or autonomy or independence, your child will start to escalate through their behavior, and they're pretty much just telling you that they have a need. And so what happens is the adult will start to feel that in their nervous system, right? And then become emotionally reactive. And so, you know, the parent might yell or snap or threaten or take things away. And it's really what I refer to in my program as the power over stance or parenting over. And it's important to recognize that that's just a moment where the parent is just really trying to, stop the behavior without getting curious of what could be going on with the child. So when the child encroaches in through their behavior, the parent reacts. And through that reactivity, then the child starts to pull away because they feel that disconnection. And so the parent might step into some ineffective communication, like lecturing or justifying, well, if you hadn't done that, then I wouldn't yell, or some sort of, uh, justification on why they reacted. And then the guilt sets in, and the worry and the shame. And then essentially there's this wooing them back, which is the power under parenting. And so this is a cycle that many families unfortunately are stuck in, which causes a lot of stress. So my work as a coach is to really break these patterns. And I work with families just to build better emotional intelligence for the entire family and just better effective communication tools. So what does play have to do with this? You may be wondering. Well, play is very important for a lot of reasons. First of all, it helps children understand their world and discover like how their bodies work. It also builds their confidence. Another reason is similar to the quote that I mentioned from Maria Montessori is children are wired for play. Like it's their work. And even for teens, I have a few of them. It's essentially their play language. And children spend a lot of time doing adult-like things, like sticking to a schedule, like being quiet when their body's telling them otherwise. And so children really look, they really know a lot about play. And to be completely honest, play has been replaced by screens for a lot of children. And so there are tons of benefits about play. Um, you know, social or physically active play helps children with coordination, balance, gross motor, creating that healthy relationship within their environment. Emotional play activates that social engagement and really just lets the children experience those stronger emotions in like in a way that they're able to kind of really understand them. And it's like mini bites, digestibles. Social play helps children develop their awareness of social cues and empathy, collaboration, and negotiation skills. And creative imagination is the pathway to innovation. Cognitive play can improve with those executive functioning skills, like following directions and planning, remembering, following through with tasks. And communication play allows children to practice communication in a low stakes arena. So before I move on to the next screen, are there any questions so far? Just wanted to take a thermometer check here. If not, I'll keep going. Okay. And feel free to unmute. Okay, well, let's take this quiz. Okay, and don't worry, you're not getting a grade. So if you don't mind typing in the chat, and then I can kind of read them out because I think Donna is offline here. So number one, play supports both a child and adult to de-stress and return to safety. True or false? Go ahead and put that in the chat. All right, I have a couple truths. True. Good. Yes, play is a great way to de-stress. Laughter, lightheartedness, it naturally lowers the blood pressure and for adults. And of course, for the kids, it's that cortisol levels. It just leaves their body. Um, so yes, it's definitely de-stressor. Number two, play is the real work of childhood. Through it, children have their best chance of becoming whole, happy adults. True or false? Yes, true. Yes, happy children grow up to be happy adults for the most part. Children, that have healthy emotional habits grow up to be adults with healthy emotional habits. Now, number three is personal, depending on your experience. Many adults experienced a lack of emotional connection in childhood, and as adults find it daunting to play with their children. So that could be true in your experience, so true and false. And then number four, play is not an act of incredible healing. True or false? False. Yes. Yeah. So you can kind of see how four goes with three. If your parents, for whatever reason, didn't show up and give you what you needed as far as connection, lightheartedness, play, time, just being present, maybe they had to work a lot or it wasn't something that came naturally to them. So now you find with your own children it to be difficult. There's a barrier there and it's something you don't maybe see as important, or maybe it's something that makes you feel uncomfortable, or maybe you just don't have that connection with yourself. And so it's incredibly healing to reconnect with who you were as a child and what you really needed at that time. So thank you for that. So as I mentioned, the needs of, let me move this, the needs of the adults and the child before, everyone, whether you're a baby, a child, a teen, an adult, someone at the end of their life, we all have human needs beyond the basic needs of safety, food, shelter. But I want to spend a little bit of time here talking about the psychological needs of humans because a behavior, whether it's good or bad, is just an expression of a need and whether it's being met or not. And so when the child is showing, an unwanted behavior, it could, it's really where we have to, remind ourselves here to get curious, to like access a pause there and get curious, like what could be at that root cause. And using play can really meet the needs of connection, of love and affection and appreciation and acceptance. It doesn't mean that you don't address the misbehavior, right? There are our children are evolving, they're lacking skills. So we do need to, teach them. But this is just a tool to get the child from a dysregulated state back down to social engagement so that they're able to access the logical thinking part of their brain. And that's really where, you can have that teachable moment and you can help kind of scaffold those skills that they might be needing. And children, especially like young ones, rely on their parents for co-regulation, and parents really just modeling the behaviors, because we have that prefrontal cortex completely developed. So they're essentially borrowing from our executive functioning skills. And, we're able to help our children develop the skills and really understand. And I can share a story with my middle son. He's my strong-willed child, kind of like a sour patch. He's tough on the outside, but just very sweet on the inside. But he loves to debate. He loves a challenge, but he also loves to have a good time. And so, anyways, this past summer, we had sat down and made like a little schedule to walk the dog. So everybody kind of knew their responsibility. And my oldest son was at work. And so, I asked my middle son, I'm like, hey, do you think you can walk the dogs, since your brother's at work today? And so, he's like, it's not my day. And immediately just started becoming defensive, started to give me a little bit of pushback. And so I really had a choice here. I could meet him at that power struggle, or, I can meet him with some connection, some acceptance and appreciation. And so this is what I did, knowing he's really been into martial arts and watching UFC fights, um, which I have joined him and learned, all of that with him. I turned around and I gave him like my version of a whatever kick and put my fists up and told him, let's go, and like tackled him down to the couch. And he was totally surprised and we just wrestled for a little bit. And I said, okay, I'm done. Like I know it's not your day. I just really need you to walk the dog if that's okay. And he's like, fine. And off he went. And so some parents might be fearful to use play in a situation like that because maybe they might fear that it's sending a message of like that pushback is okay. So why engage in something fun if they're like pushing back, right? And there are situations and there are children where you can't necessarily go into play, right? Like my youngest son is very on the more sensitive side. So he needs to kind of have his feelings go through completion before he relaxes. And then we move into play. So, it really depends on your child and their personality, but it's really important to meet that source and that need first before you move into play. And my middle son, he can switch very easily to play. And so he's just always ready for a good time, which is why play works so well for him. Okay, so I want to explore the quadrants here, these four quadrants of empowered play to give you some strategies. The first one is co-regulation, and it's really just surrendering to the moment and being conscious and being curious. So it could be child-led, like just stepping into your child's world and letting them lead, or it could be adult-led, but it's really just helping your child regain that safety in their body and the support, of an attuned, present adult is what they rely on for that. Um, and I do get asked a lot about roughhousing, like what it looks like will it make my child aggressive? And what I have found with three boys, um, is that, having 30-second rounds works really great. Whether it's a pillow fight or wrestling match or a dance party, or they used to play this force field game with the cushions, like pushing the cushions against. What I found is like the 30 seconds allows the energy to rise and then fall. And so what happens is that cortisol that's trapped in their body is releasing, but in a more manageable way. The next one, I'm going to get a sip. The next one is healing and processing play. So it's allowing your child to experience things from both perspectives. And so if your child is going through something, whether that, it's causing them stress, whether it's the neighbor or it's, a kid at school or just something they're just kind of struggling with, and having stress about, like role play it out, where they can really process the emotions and have the language of what to say, what to do. Um, and what also works really great is to reverse the role. Like role reversing, it gives them the sense of seeing things from the other perspective. And it really builds empathy and gives them, a sense of power or just understanding of the other person's perspective. Kids often feel powerless, and so giving them that agency and autonomy through play is really, really helpful. I can remember when I had a newborn. My oldest was 2.5, and I had a newborn. And a lot of families go through this when they have transition of a new member in the family. And I remember buying these walkie-talkies. I don't think it was through Amazon back then. I don't think we had Amazon back then, but maybe it was at the toy store. And And so if I was tied up with the baby in the room nursing or whatever, like my son Giovanni would have the walkie-talkie in another part of the house. And he would act like the little security guard and he would check in and he would give me updates on what was going on and we would talk and it just gave him that sense of power, but still having that connection with me. And he loved it. The next one is teaching and discipline. So the word discipline means to teach. And so you're modeling that with empathy, with attunement and trust. So games are great, songs, storytelling. Children love to hear stories, whether it's a story about you when you were little, or you can even make up a story using characters that they're really into and like having some sort of teachable moment in the story. Um, I remember having a co-teacher when I worked in New York City in a Montessori school, and he was like, had a gift of storytelling, and he would use every student. We had a classroom of 18 students. He was able to on the fly create this story using every student in the classroom. And so it was just the funniest thing. Like kids love story. I think humans in general just really thrive on story. Um, and especially language. So, swearing is another thing I get asked about a lot. And it's really just learning the language, and learning that words have power. And recently, my 11-year-old he asked me, hey mom, can I say the word hell? And we spoke about it. We spoke about the meaning of the word and how it can be interpreted differently. And he found it hilarious when I kind of modeled two different tones and two different like contextual meanings of the words. And we agreed on which one was appropriate and which one had like a hurtful or hate kind of speech attached to it. And so it was a great fun way to teach, that it's a great way that you can like teach children that words have power and they have meaning and how they can affect other people and their feelings and emotions. And then the last quadrant here is spontaneous play. And that's really just walking through your day knowing that anything and everything has the potential of having fun, whether it's just being silly or switching, your voices or accents. It's just bringing a good time is spontaneous play. Like and it doesn't, I think sometimes when parents, feel exhausted coming home from work and they feel like, oh, I have to cook dinner, I have to do all the things. Like to pull out this big imaginary like thing, it seems so tedious, but even just 15 minutes of something spontaneous, something silly, something fun, and getting that connection, that need met with your child is going to allow you so much more moving forward with the rest of your day because that need has been met. And your children will be more, willing to compromise or to cooperate rather, not compromise, into doing the routines and the things because that need has been met. Um, so, I'd like to, in a minute, just stop sharing here and see if you can share a small takeaway, anything maybe you're committed to doing more of, or anything you got from, hopefully this was helpful in having some strategies and ideas of what you can implement in your home. And, I definitely want to thank you for your time. And if you want a deeper dive on this, just simply reach out to me and book a clarity call. I'll put the link also in the chat. So we could set up a time and I could just get to know your family more and see how we can apply some of the things you learned today in your family or or just, see how I can better support you and just provide you with those strategies and tools that are super helpful. So let me stop sharing and then feel free to unmute and also if anybody has any questions. Okay, let me see here.
Not seeing any questions at this moment.
Any questions or takeaways?
Oh, actually, I apologize. They are here. But not notes, just yours. Let me scroll down. If my computer will be break up. True. Yeah, no questions at this point. Oh, Nina is asking, what if when you approach through play, the child craves more and then seeks through a negative attention minutes after? I hope this makes sense.
Can you repeat that
And
again?
yes,
Sorry,
Amber,
I'm trying to mute the background noise that it's distracting me.
that's,
Can you repeat it one more time? Sorry.
it says, what if when you approach through play, the child craves more and then seeks through a negative attention minutes after?
Okay. So basically, it's like they don't want to stop. They want to continue having your connection or your attention. And sorry, I'm trying to put this in there we go. I think that's where the conscious communication comes in, the effective communication of really kind of letting them know, if your child comes to you in the middle of dinner, it's like, hey baby, I'm really excited to play this game with you. I'm gonna put the timer on, we have 10 minutes to get dinner done, and then we're gonna sit down and do the game for however many long. Kids don't always have a great concept of time, especially young children. So things like sand timers or, the timer on the microwave or something where they understand that this is the time we're going to do this activity and then we're going to transition to bedtime or whatever it might be. I think being proactive and letting them know ahead of time is going to set them up for success. Was that helpful?
By the way, please feel free to unmute and ask your question if it will make it easier.
Oh yes, the visual timers from Amazon. Yeah, I have those. They're great for like brushing teeth. They have different minutes, 1 minute, 2 minute. Um, those are great. There's also one on Amazon where it like turns blue when you turn it, and so as the time kind of decreases, they can see, they don't necessarily know the numbers if they're young, but they can see that it's shrinking, and those are great as well. Just to give them that concept because I think it's important as parents, like, or everybody in the home, like to normalize that your needs are important, right? Mommy's needs are important. The baby, everybody, we have to communicate in the way so that they understand um, what your needs are as well, because you can't pour from an empty cup. And if you're needing a minute to get yourself together or to just, decompress from something or maybe just pause from that reactivity, then, that's where that communication is key. Oh, they said, yeah, that's the one we use. We bought the purple one for our daughter. That's awesome. Any takeaways? Anything that stood out today that maybe you're committed to kind of incorporating into your week. A quiet group tonight. Play should be an important part of a teenager by using humor. Yes, absolutely. Um, yeah, I mean, teenagers sometimes get a bad rap, but they're really great. I mean, they're a lot of fun, and I think that, especially if it's like the example I shared with my son, if it's something that you can kind of they're escalating and you can kind of change the course a little bit, then it can really just change the course of the outcome, right? So yeah, using humor with teenagers is important. And someone else said, play should be an important part of our routine. Absolutely. I always tell parents like play is like the ace in the back pocket tool because, like I said, kids are wired for play. And so, whether it's chore time and, put some music on and make it fun and we do it together, like kids are gonna be more willing to cooperate if it's fun, especially with transitions, like getting them from doing something to bedtime routine or to dinner or whatever the routine it is. Making, hey, do you want to, hop like a frog or do you want to fly like a plane on my back to the bathtub? So just making it fun is definitely is gonna help everyone. Well, if there's no more questions, I want to thank everybody for their time. I know, oh, someone says I like the idea of redirecting a teenager by using humor. Yeah. Um, if, yeah, so I want to thank you for your time, whether you're watching the replay or you're here tonight, because I know it's not easy juggling bedtime routines and all of the things that we all have going on. But the fact that you're here and you're watching shows that you're really committed to being the best version of yourself for your children. So I thank you so much for your time. Thank you, Donna, for having me a part of Thrive again. And
Absolutely. Absolutely. That I have to say, you gave people such helpful tips that they can use right away. And that's so important because I think sometimes we forget that there can be little steps, right? There can be little steps that you can just incorporate that make all the difference. As I sit here with my granddaughter.
oh, she's beautiful. Hi.
So yes, Michelle, thank you so much. I can't wait to share this recording with all of you. It will be up on Montessori Thrive, and if you registered, you will get an email with a copy.
Perfect.
So, and we'll look forward to having you on again, Michelle,
Yes,
because
absolutely.
incredible tips for everyone. So thank you.
Thank
Everyone
you.
have a great evening, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yes, have a great night. Thank
Yeah,
you.
come back and see us next week because we have one more. All right. Thanks again.
Bye-bye.